What's happening, YouTube? Back in the day gamer here. Thanks for tuning into my channel, and today I'm coming at you with another episode of What's Happening, YouTube. Today's episode is one I've had in the works for quite a while, and I'm very excited to bring to you, and that is What's Happening, YouTube Totally Radical 80s Edition. As we get started to commemorate this momentous YouTube occasion, I'm going to crack open what is currently my favorite beer, Shock Top Twisted Pretzel Wheat. It tastes and smells like pretzel. It's so good. You know what? You can't get it, so you're screwed. That's right. They stopped brewing it like 3-4 years ago. They brought it back this year, right towards the end of fall or whatever. I picked up like 5 cases, and I have them in the cooler at work. I only bring some home here and there, and it's all gone. You can't get it, so you're gonna have to take my word for it, how good it is. But we're not here to talk about beer. We're here to talk about video games, right? It's a video game channel. That's why you are all here. Today we might get a little off subject. Not a lot, but a little. I am wearing my I Learned Everything I Need to Know from 80s Cartoons t-shirt because the 80s was filled with awesome cartoons. To get things rolling, a couple weeks ago we were at the mall and I found this just greatest candle I've ever smelled in my life. It's called Saturday Morning, right? Look at it. It's got Fruit Loops on the top. And it smells like the greatest bowl of Fruit Loops that you've ever had. If you can tell, it's all super jagged and broken because my son decided he wanted to play with it too and drop it on the ground and fuck it all up. But that doesn't mean it still doesn't smell awesome. Saturday Morning by, what is this? J&J Candle Company. The shit thing is, it's a soy wax candle, so when you burn it, it doesn't smell. But it smells so good now. All right. We're not here to talk about candles, but it is called Saturday Morning, and it is a cereal. And back in the 80s, back in the day, when you were watching your cartoons on Saturday morning, you were more certainly eating cereal. And I got a couple boxes here that I just wanted to show off. I picked me up one of them Garbage Pail Kids boxes of cereal, right? Garbage Pail Kids. Huge in the 80s. I remember getting my hand on a quarter, or if I was lucky enough, $1, and going down and picking up however many packs of the cards I could get. They were a quarter a piece. I don't think you even got charged tax, because it was the 80s, right? I've had this box of cereal for a couple years. It's probably shit and no good anymore, but finally I've used it as a prop, and now my wife would be happy to get rid of it. This was a cereal that came out way before the 80s, but I remember it was big in the 80s. And I guess it's not this cereal because, well, Boo Berry Crunch, Frankenberry, Count Chocula, right? This is the Monster Mash. It's the mashup of those. And it also has the Mummy guy, who had a quick run there in the 80s, I think. And I don't know if the werewolf even had a cereal, but he's on there. There it is, the Monster Mash cereal. I paid a pretty penny for this sucker around Halloween time. And it's been sitting right over here since then. So yeah, Monster Mash cereal. Boo Berry, Frankenberry, Count Chocula. What's your favorite? I've had this right here since the 80s. Grade school I went to, once a year in the summer, they'd have a festival. That's another extremely 80s thing. Going to your school's festival. The carnies. You know, they got the shitty rigged games. And, you know, you're going to win the big prize. You're never going to win the big prize. But you can get the little prizes. And that was this. This pink. Okay, pink's not cool. Just, I want to state right now, guys should not wear pink. Pink's for ladies. Pink's not cool. But in the 80s, pastel colors started to come out. And apparently, I decided I wanted to pick this. Do you guys know what this is? I won this at my Catholic school's It's my Ring doorbell. I won this at my Catholic school's summer festival. It's a roach clip. It's a roach clip. I got this in like 3rd grade. I've kept it ever since then. I don't know why. I've never used it as a roach clip. Not that that would be something that I ever would have done anyways. But there's my roach clip from 35 years ago. Video games, right? That's what we're here to talk about. We're getting sidetracked. I know I'm losing you. Stay with me. Stay with me, people. That is good beer. Okay. My wife's playing with the kid out, bouncing the ball. Hope that's not interfering. Video games. Kick-ass 80s movies. Sometimes they came out with a video game. Karate Kid, right? Had to get the trilogy. Didn't have any of these on DVD. 1 is really the only one that matters. Now I have 1, 2, and 3. The trilogy. Why is that significant? Cobra Kai. Holy shit. Is Cobra Kai awesome? Cobra Kai. Awesome. Love almost every minute of every episode. Sometimes when the kids got in the fights in the high school, I got a little... whatever. It's TV though. Fucking Cobra Kai. Karate Kid on the NES, right? This is not a terrible game. It's not a new pickup for me, but I felt it relevant to bring up since I just got the Karate Kid trilogy. We're talking about Cobra Kai. This is an 80s movie-based video game. Okay, it's LJN. So what? Not that bad. Not the best game ever. I always liked catching the flies with the chopsticks. For some reason, I remember being good at that part. Not being good at the stupid crane part thing. But yeah, that's not a very good level at all. This game is filled with not very good levels. No, in all honesty, this game is middle of the road. I just plowed my way through it not too long ago just for the hell of it. It can be tough. Sometimes you get lucky, it ends up being easy. I don't know, like I said, I've always kind of liked this game. Got a bad rap because of AVGN, who I'm a huge fan of, whether he shits on certain games or not, and whether he likes it or not, I'm a fan of Karate Kid on the NES. More than likely, one of the very first things you think about when someone mentions 80s is music and or fashion. Which, at the time, some of the things that were cool should not have been cool. We're going to stay video game related here, because I know that's really all you care about. That's why you're here to watch this. But we can't talk about the 80s without talking about some music. And when you're talking about bad fashion, here is a semi-obscure album from a band that, well, at least this album has 2 good songs on it, right? Now, okay, Brittany Fox, take a look at these guys here. We're going to get some B-roll. Marcellus Wallace, does he look like a bitch? These guys look like bitches, every one of them. It's like, I'm not sure if they're hot or what. I'm confused. They're guys, right? I mean, this guy over here, his hair, it's fucking pretty. I'm pretty sure they're wearing both men's and women's clothes. I don't know. It's the 80s. It's crazy. These were the icons, right? Well, I guess these guys weren't the icons because they weren't that good. But Girl School and Long Way to Love, first 2 songs in this album, they're kick-ass, right? They are. You could say they suck, you don't like it. Those are 2 good songs. You maybe don't even remember them or have never heard of them. YouTube it, check it out. Another band who had a questionable looking lead singer, but much different from there. Bullet Boys. Smooth Up In Ya. Just classic. One of the best 80s songs. Well, there's so many. It's a really, really good one. Really, really good one. One of my favorite 80s bands. Cinderella. Here's 3 of their albums. I jammed them the other day, all 3 in a row. Long Cold Winter, best one. In my opinion, Bad Seamstress Blues and Falling Apart at the Seams. The album starts off that way. It's into Gypsy Road. And then So many other good songs. If you're only going to get one Cinderella album, this is the one you get. Night Songs, Heartbreak Station, all 3 good albums. Yeah, you know, you're watching this channel. You're my age. It's old shit. So you've been listening to it since the 80s. You probably sing every word of every song. That is tasty beer. Here's a band. Last one. We're not talking about any more bands. Going back into video games. But this was an album that they're just 2 songs. Kick ass. It's like, I'm going to get me their albums. I decided to just get a best of. The Best of Crocus. What is this called? Stayed Awake All Night. Okay. The Long Stick Goes Boom and Screamin' in the Night. 2 fucking kick-ass songs. We're going to stop talking about 80s music right there at Crocus. You probably don't associate them with being an 80s band. They came out in the 70s, but those are 2 kick-ass 80s songs. Screamin' in the Night. Mic drop. Boom. But 80s music-wise, I think we're forgetting about MTV, right? Fucking MTV was everything. In the 80s, it was just like, we got a spare minute, turn the TV on, watch MTV. MTV used to play nothing but music videos. And in the 80s, it was like, everybody liked everything, because you didn't have all these choices now. There wasn't YouTube or internet or other channels. It was like Saturday morning you woke up and turned the TV on and there's 2 channels that had cartoons. So you weren't really torn between what to watch because there was like 1 or 2 channels that played cartoons. So you watched them. MTV, you turned it on, they played videos. Sometimes it was Madonna or Boy George or the fucking Flock of Seagulls. Sometimes it was Metallica. Metallica won. The video used to play fucking constantly. It's not that good of a video, but the song is so damn good. I must have watched it 1,000 times. Same as everybody else. But MTV, right? Used to be... Oh, here comes my drunk wife. What? You can go to the bathroom. It's just fine. We're talking about MTV in the 80s. You remember MTV?
No, too young.
Too young. I robbed my cradle.
Totally kidding. Totally kidding.
Well, have another one. Yeah. So, MTV Remote Control. Remember this game? You probably don't, because it's not that good. My cousin Greg had it. Used to play it all the time at his house. I like what it says here. Move my old man glasses. The official video game version of MTV's worthless game of useless TV knowledge. Now this game did not hold up well. When you play it now, you forget a lot of who these people were, because there's a lot of useless, insignificant shit in here. But I loved playing it. Once again, you didn't have a lot of choice back in the day. It was like, oh hey, yeah, you know, I got a handful of video games. Let's play the one I feel like playing. You don't have to be that quiet. They know you're here. But yeah, we didn't have walls of beautiful, beautiful Nintendo games. No, we got a stack. You got a stack, and you picked from if this was your stack, this many were good. This many just sucked, and you never played them. More often than not, Remote Control may have been one of those. Yeah, I almost lied. I don't really enjoy playing that game. I love video games, so I like playing them. But you throw that one in, and you're like, yeah. And a couple minutes later, you're like, okay, what's next? What's next? I'll tell you what. Happy Meal toys! Yeah, the McDonald's changeables, right? You guys just saw my video on my wife turning the four-wheeler on. Thanks. I hope that's not too loud, but McDonald's back in the day, once again, wasn't a lot of choices. A lot of times, dinner was McDonald's. You didn't know it. It wasn't, oh, McDonald's is bad for you. Fuck no. So we're going to McDonald's. Fuck yeah, we're going to McDonald's. Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't like, oh, you should only eat McDonald's or fast food or red meat so often. No. It was like, please God, Dad, Mom, can we go to McDonald's like now for every meal? It's McDonald's. When you're younger, you got a Happy Meal, fucking Happy Meal toys, they're all awesome. Just mentioning these because I just put out a video on my changeables display set that I got from Do You Nerd. Feel free to check it out because I spent a lot of time on it. And not a lot of you fuckers watched it. So I'll wait. I'm going to put a link in the description below. I want to see the numbers and the views on that video jump, okay? We're going to talk about video games some more. Drunken impulse buy. So, Retron 1 AV gaming console. It's a Nintendo, excuse me, knockoff. It's got the HDMI hookups. I am not a fan of Retron. I'm sorry, Hyperkin, I'm not a fan of. They've done me wrong in the past. We're not going to dwell on it. But this one, is it called the Miami Vice color scheme or the 80's one or whatever? That's 80's right there. If you weren't alive in the 80's, everything was like these colors. Okay? That's a good representation. You guys remember this shit? Come on, focus. Lip balm, right? My mom had one of these in the bottom of her purse for like my whole life. Vintage moisturizing lip licking lip balm. So nowadays you got the chapstick that you put on your lips, right? Because it's not healthy to touch your mouth. Well, back in the 80's, everybody wasn't a huge pussy and you could do things that were stupid. Most of the time you did. Like ride in the back of a pickup truck, driving down the street. Just in the back, no seats, no top, no seat belts. No, yeah. Smoking was cool. Everybody smoked Marlboro Reds. One beer company made, I think Miller Lite made Miller Lite. Other than that, everything was just heavy beer, right? Yeah, Well, this is lip balm that you don't apply like that. You put your finger in it and you touch your mouth, right? Seems barbaric. But in the 80's, that's what happened. Yeah, I don't know. Drunken impulse buy, right? I shouldn't have money. I shouldn't have any money. Spend it on shit like this. By the way, this, yeah, oh, I gotta have this. And then when I got it, like a week later, I got my AVS. So this now this is up for grabs. Anybody? Real cheap. That beer is good, and it's even better with coconut lip balm. All right, we got one more game to talk about down here. I'm gonna pick it up, set it right here, so you can't see it yet, okay? Can't see it yet. Because before we talk about that game, other than all this other shit we talked about, candy, right? Candy was like the staple of your diet when you were an 80's kid. We got some shit here that I used to have all the time. I'm like, yeah, it'll be perfect for my Totally Radical 80's episode. Sprees, right? Or we'll get some B-roll, but the tube of Sprees. Then you got a step up. Even better was the tube. It's not a tube, but it's wrapped in like foil. Sweet Tarts. And then my favorite. Everyone else's too. Who can guess? I'm gonna give you a 3 count. Bottle caps. Right? Fucking bottle caps. I can't wait to tear into these. I'm gonna eat this right now. Real quick. Remember these fucking things? The wax bottles filled with liquid. I saw these the other day at the impulse buy line. Shut up, phone! There were no phones in the 80's that weren't attached to the wall with a long cord. Oh no. So this was at the impulse buy section at the checkout line at my hardware store. The little wax bottles. You bite the cap off and you suck the liquid out. Hopefully it's not actually from the 80's, but we're gonna do this. What are the popsicles that come in the stick that you All popsicles are sticks. You fucking know what I mean. It's just the colored liquid. And you freeze the stick and you cut the top off and you icy pops or whatever the fuck. It tastes just like that. But not frozen. It's not very good. I think they were better back in the 80s. Now, before we get into video games, got drunk, was like, you know what? I haven't had a fucking Mars bar since the 80s or whatever. Stopped making Mars bars a while ago. I think you can't buy them in America anymore, but you can buy them somewhere because I got it shipped to me. I got a whole fucking box of them. You know what? They're not that great. It's a candy bar, alright. Anybody want a Mars bar? I'll send you a Mars bar. Let me know if you want a Mars bar, and I'll fucking send you one. Okay? No questions asked. This video game, while very obscure, completely unpopular, I myself never had it until a handful of years ago. The reason I chose to showcase this at the end of my totally radical 80s What's Happening YouTube video is because... Shut up, phone! It is absolutely the most 80s cover there could ever be. And I don't even need to say anything else. I'm just gonna show you. Ghost Lion on the NES. So we got a aerobics chick holding a sword next to a white lion. I gotta know more. First of all, not only does this scream 80s, but it's probably an amalgamation of different 80s artists and bands and songs and the epitome of everything 80s in one cover. I think it's got a sunset back there. Anyways, this game is awesome. You never hear shit about it, probably because when you were a kid, you were not gonna buy a game that had that shit on the cover. It's an RPG. It's not typical. It has this weird mechanic where most of your fighting's done by summoning different people and monsters. I'm not gonna get too much into that because a couple videos ago I talked about it because I started playing it, played through it, beat it, but now that I have beat it, I really, really liked it a lot. It was a super fun game. It's a great RPG. I'm an RPG guy. It's got a lot of similarities to a lot of RPGs, and then there's some non-similarities. One of the things that I liked were the dungeons are not too complex. I really hate when you gotta twist and wind your way through a dungeon and there's so many fucking random encounters. It's just like a pain in the ass and you hate it. You gotta backtrack and try the other way, but you had to get in 5 fights in that same time and it just kills your enjoyment of the game. That did not happen very much in this game. Towards the end, there was some longer, more difficult dungeons, obviously, because it's towards the end. So it got more difficult to get through, but I really liked this game. It wasn't very cryptic. There was a couple parts that threw you for a loop, but for the most part, you just sit and think about it, and you could plug your way through it for sure. It really could have used some kind of map. There's a couple parts where that really would have benefited and made it a little more enjoyable. But for the most part, Ghost Lion on the NES is a super, super fun game and possibly worth the $6.99 I paid for it. Yeah, no, fuck, I wish. No, there's the real price tag. Oh, yuck. Ugh. So, that's gonna wrap up this episode of What's Happening YouTube Totally Radical 80s Edition. Thanks for tuning into my channel. I hope you liked this episode and all the shit that I've been storing here until I film this one. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. And until next time, YouTube, keep it retro!